Hello, everyone, and this is my review for Monday Night Raw on February 2nd, 2015. And right before I go into my Raw review, I just wanted to say last week was a hectic week at work. This is why you didn't see a lot of videos or any real reviews going out there, especially for TNA Impact, just because of I live in the Phoenix area. And the Super Bowl was out here all last week. My work hours changed and I was completely exhausted and didn't actually have a lot of time to do any videos. So anything you saw last week was just kind of something I was able to get in there when I wasn't feeling exhausted or had a little bit of time. Work hours changed. And that's basically what it was. And, everything kind of goes back to normal for me this week, especially work schedule-wise. So everything should go back to normal here as well. So now on to Monday Night Raw. I'll go off and say Monday Night Raw this week actually was thoroughly entertained by it. Just because, you had some really good builds going in there, maybe potential for not just Fastlane, but also WrestleMania areas, especially with tag team splits, even though I don't really want to see any of the tag teams right now split up because that tag team division needs more people than just the Ascension and the Usos. But you have that dissension going out, and also the New Day as well. And I'm missing Tyson Kidd and Cesaro, and that is one feud I'm actually looking forward to, is Tyson Kidd, Cesaro, and the Usos. That one's going to be that one I think is going to be really good. I like the build that they went with this week, using with Cesaro and Tyson Kidd out there going with, and the singles match with Cesaro and one of the Usos. They put on a really good match. It kind of builds into where everything's going into their feud. So hopefully they'll continue on with putting on not just good matches but good starts to these feuds as well. You also, I was referring to the tag team split ups before. They started it with Damian, well, not fully started, but they're kind of making it culminate with Damian Mizdow and The Miz. Obviously, The Miz fires Damian Mizdow in a backstage promo that I thought was actually really good. They did a really good job of this. And basically rehires him as his personal assistant. So he wants him to stop the whole mimicking him at all times. I like the way they started it where, you have a fan asking for an autograph and he's actually asking for Mizdow's autograph. So I liked where they went with that. I also liked where they went with Stardust and Goldust potential split up here. They did a really good job with the backstage promo. I liked this, and this was the continuation from last week's SmackDown as well, where Goldust started kind of getting a Stardust face. Now Stardust was trying to get into Goldust face in this one. And then the backstage promo between the two of them was actually phenomenal, because you have Stardust kind of going ballistic and crazy. He wasn't really it made it seem like he wasn't all there. He was kind of mentally not clear. And you have Goldust trying to talk him out of it, and he goes in there and says, Cody. I like the almost realistic edge that they went with it, with him trying to bring Cody Rhodes back out in this case. And I like the response of Stardust, don't call him Cody. I liked where they went with all of that. For the most part, the only thing about Raw I didn't like was the Paige and the Bella Twins build, and that's mainly just because you had, they kind of got rid of the whole friendship between Natalya and Paige on the Total Divas show, and that's one thing I don't necessarily like where they went with that, because not everybody watches that show. Now, granted, there's a lot of people that do. Don't get me wrong. I don't watch it, but there's a lot of people that do, because it's obviously been on for 3 seasons. And I don't like the fact that they're using the Total Divas storylines for Monday Night Raw now, because now it forces somebody who maybe doesn't watch it. They have to watch it to figure out where the storylines are going. And it just doesn't come off right, at least in my own personal opinion in that case. So hopefully this isn't hopefully they don't go that don't fully go that route where you have to actually watch the Total Divas show to get any of the Divas storylines, but that's probably where they're going. They're trying to get more people to watch that show. I don't know where they're going. So for the most part, you got to basically go off their matches to figure out if anything's going any good versus maybe versus figuring out where their storylines are going, because most of it's happening over on one show and then it carries over into the other. So, whatever in this case. This brings me to the John Cena welcoming back welcoming back Ryback, Dolph Ziggler, and Eric Rowan. Honestly, he didn't really even talk much about them until he actually brings all of them out. And that aspect I didn't like about the segment. You figure he would have talked them up a little bit more before bringing them out, but he basically put over the Sting portion of that match versus trying to put over the three guys that he tried to help bring back into the show. Now when Stephanie interrupted the entire segment in there, that's where the segment started getting good, because I like the aspect that you have the Authority starting the Ryback and Dolph Ziggler and Eric Rowan's punishments right then and there, and that's where I felt they actually did a really good job with this. I like that aspect that she puts them each into a match to try to punish them for sticking with John Cena, and now that they're back and they can't just necessarily be fired, it's time for them to each get a punishment. So she puts them each in a match with the people from the Survivor Series teams. So you have Ryback going up against Luke Harper. You had, not everybody was from the Survivor Series team, but from each team on there. But for the most part, that's what it was. So, like I said, you have Ryback versus Luke Harper, which was a great, surprisingly great match. I thought that was a really, really good one in general there. Dolph Ziggler and Bray Wyatt, again, another really good match. And then you have Eric Rowan and Rusev, which was pretty much just a statement match. And that really even a match, they didn't even have that match start. It was kind of just a statement to John Cena what Rusev can do. And again, John Cena is in the building. He doesn't even have a match that night. Matter of fact, I think the only segment he had was the welcoming back segment. So why isn't he going out there to help Eric Rowan? One of the guys who stuck up for him going into the Survivor Series pay-per-view. Why don't they just, actually have him come out there and try to help at some point during that beating that Eric Rowan gets? I really don't know. It is the funny thing about John Cena. He's quote unquote the biggest babyface, yet he doesn't help his buddies out at all. He is literally Hulk Hogan in that sense of his character, and it's very funny of where they're actually going. I want to see them use that a lot more, and I know they do use that for some of the other people's heel turns down the road in some cases, but I want to see them use that more because it is literally the case. They write it in such a way that that you have all these people that stick up for John Cena, yet he doesn't really help anybody in the end. So we'll see where they continue on with that. That was obviously a good way of building up Rusev going into his match at Fastlane, and building up as a legitimate threat to John Cena. I don't know what to think about the flag segment afterwards, because again, that was kind of like how they did the ripping down of the flag with the Big Show at one time. I don't necessarily like insults to the into other people's countries' flags and everything like that. That's just who I am. I don't necessarily like those portions, but that was something they went with in there. They kind of used that as a sign of maybe Rusev's in trouble or something like that. I don't know exactly where it was going. It's maybe not my favorite type of storyline push going into anything, but that was where they went with it. So we'll see where they continue on with the whole John Cena Rusev storyline. And this brings me to pretty much the main event portion of the storyline of the show, which was the whole Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan, and Roman Reigns segments. They began the show with Triple H wanting to make some kind of big announcement. He gets interrupted by Roman Reigns. And they're basically, it was basically almost talking. It's like they're trying to strip him of his Royal Rumble win, and he wasn't going to go to WrestleMania and everything like that. I actually liked this week's promo. It came off more natural to me this week, especially how Roman Reigns came off on the microphone. Now he's still not that good on the mic. Don't get me wrong, but it came off a lot more natural this week than it did any other time. It didn't really feel like he was reading from a script of any sense of the word. But and this obviously brought out Daniel. Not necessarily obviously, but it did bring out Daniel Bryan. Him talking about not getting his rematch, any kind of match for the WWE World Heavyweight Title, and that is kind of a legitimate hole in the storyline. Daniel Bryan, he got stripped of the title. He should get a title shot when he comes back, which he hasn't had yet. So, and then for whatever reason after that, they bring out Seth Rollins, and this brought into what the major announcement was going to be, or not necessarily the major announcement, but basically, he had Seth Rollins cut his promo about why he should be facing off against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. So it led to basically Triple H and Stephanie manipulating Roman Reigns to giving up or potentially putting on the line his Royal Rumble win against the winner of Daniel Bryan and Seth Rollins. And I like the backstage promos afterwards with Stephanie and Triple H talking about how they manipulated the situation. Seth Rollins going in there and basically reassuring everything to both of them. They basically set up the Daniel Bryan win to go up against Roman Reigns at the Fastlane pay-per-view through those two segments in general. And I just like the little realistic touches that they put in there, like Stephanie and Triple H saying that they can't even necessarily contractually strip Roman Reigns of his Royal Rumble win, and that they had to manipulate this situation and how easy they thought it was and everything like that. And of course, they also had him in the match with the Big Show, which Seth Rollins cost them. That led into the actual match with Daniel Bryan and Seth Rollins, and how that would actually cost Seth Rollins in the end, because he cost Roman Reigns this match at the beginning of the show. Roman Reigns cost him the match at the end of the show. So it's going to be interesting seeing them, how they're going to build the Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan match going into the actual Fastlane pay-per-view, just because you kind of got two faces. Or basically, who are they going to... Obviously, they're going to build Daniel Bryan as the face character. But how are they going to build Roman Reigns? Are they going to just make him look strong and still keep him kind of a baby face, or maybe a tweener? Or are they going to turn him heel in some way? So we'll see where they go with that. So it'll be interesting to see how they build that match to begin with. Honestly, this week, like I said before, I actually kind of like this week's Raw. It came off pretty good for once. It's been a while since I felt Raw came off overall a relatively good show. It wasn't anything overly great, but they definitely had some really good starts to some storylines in here, and we'll see where they continue on with them here into the near future. So that's my review this week for Monday Night Raw, and I thank you guys for watching.